I'm getting some headsets. Also didn't think of it. Well, good morning, everybody. There are still some people coming in, but if it's okay with you, I think it's time to get started because we have a very full workshop this morning. I hope everybody slept well, had some breakfast after a beautiful film and maybe a very short Parisian night yesterday. My name is Frank Groot. I'm not Irene from Mubi, as you can see, because unfortunately Irene got sick and I wasn't able to manage to be with us today. So I'm stepping in, but in the end it's about the 6 speakers that we have here, so I hope you won't mind too much. Before we, I'm from Kino Rotterdam, by the way. I'm sorry, a cinema in Rotterdam, and a proud member of the Europa Cinemas network. Before we get started, yesterday was a day filled with presentations and some worrying numbers. Who of you is at this moment worried about the future? Can you raise some hands? Who is genuinely worried? And yeah, let's get started straight away. Who of you is not worried at all about the future? All right. Okay, that's good. That's good. Well, I hope by the end of this workshop, you will have heard 6 stories, 6 fresh approaches to all that's coming to us, and that the people answering to the second question, being less worried, that group will be bigger. Because yesterday, Olivier from CNC showed that in some countries we're down 30%, in some even 50% in Italy. And the good thing is there is aid coming from the government. I read that the Italian Minister of Culture, the new Italian Minister of Culture, said that it is the center of his main policy is the cinema question of all culture. So that gives hope. And there are people like Veronica that we heard yesterday from the Austrian City Council. I think we all wished we had somebody in the City Council like that. So there is hope, there is aid coming, but in the end, it's going to be you. It's going to be us. We're going to do it ourselves. And after this disrupting period, there are fresh approaches, there are fresh ideas, and the 6 speakers that were invited here today give very different approaches, but I think there's something in here for everybody, and that they will not only give you ideas about how to bridge the downfall, because we don't know where history will go. We saw it yesterday in the presentation, in the historical data. It could be that it's 30%, it stops here. It could also be that we're on the way up again, which I personally firmly believe. But it could also be that we have some tougher times ahead. But even then, these stories will show you how to bridge that. Like I said before, we're going to keep it quite a big pace because there's 6 presentations. We're going to limit to 10 minutes so that we also have a half an hour of time for you guys to ask questions to these speakers. In the meanwhile, I hear that the audience of the workshop on the other side has started as well. Let's make sure that with every applause for these speakers, they will hear it and we will be the louder room. Yes, starting now. Very good. Thank you. And then, without further ado, I would like to ask Valerio of Piccolo America. Okay, they got started as well. I would like to ask Valerio on stage first to give a very inspiring story about how, from nothing, a group of film buffs and activists started a cinema from scratch. Valerio, can I give you the stage for a presentation?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Valerio CAROCCI, and 2 years ago in Lisbon we left off when the Piccolo America Association was running a 3 open-air cinema in summer, and I'm very happy to return today at Europa Cinema. Thank you, Fatima, to speak to you all and to you on behalf of the other guys of Piccolo America, that in these 3 years we opened our first one-screen cinema in Trastevere. We are finally Exhibitor, just like many of you. We started our journey 10 years ago in 2012 with the occupation of the historical cinema in Trastevere to save it from demolition and reconversion in parking lots. Here in the photo. Non funziona? Okay. We were kicked out in 2014. We started organizing Il Cinema in Piazza, which means a movie theater in the square that became Rome's biggest open-air and free access film retrospective. And this year it will be the 9th edition. Here, this is the festival. Okay. This is the cinema. A year ago, and after 5 years of renovation works and bureaucracy, in September 2021, we reopened another historical movie theater in the heart of Rome, the Cinema Troisi. During this week, there were 2 important news for our group. The first one is public. After our first year of activity, 2 days ago, we received the prize from the National Association of Producer, Distribution and Exhibitor Italian for their audience in a one-screen cinema in Italy for 2022. We had 16,000 admissions. On top of this, I'm proud to say that in the same week, the association became a foundation. This is not a public news yet, but I wanted to share it with you all. But in these 2 years I didn't work on my English, so to be less stressed, I will now speak Italian. Thank you. Allora, questo è il Cinema Troisi a Roma, a Trastevere.
Here you have Cinema Troisi in Rome, Trastevere. We renovated it because it was abandoned for many years. 70% of the money for the renovation came from public funds and 30% was our contribution. We young people under the age of 20 and 30, we used to organize a free summer festival in the past. We spent more than 250,000 euros of our money, and the remainder was put up by state funds. The Italian Ministry for Culture gave most of the support at the end of the work, so it's our parents who had to put up the money, mortgaging their homes, so we could finance the work. Here's the cinema. We set things out in order to meet all the needs in our city. We turned the boiler room into a studio, the first of its kind in Rome. We're open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There are about 70 seats where young people can work with their computers. And these are the circumstances in which we opened the cinema in 2021. You can see the income. As we said earlier on, minus 73% admissions in 2021 owing to the pandemic. We managed to increase by 47% the number of spectators, but we still stand at about minus 40% compared with the pre-pandemic period. As I said, our cinema was the first in Italy, or the leading one in terms of the number of spectators when you compare with the general situation. We analyzed trends for the cinema prior to the pandemic and afterwards. We only have a single screen, but we wanted to look at the results of multiplexes in our city too. We chose quality multiplexes, and our results exceed those of other cinemas. Why? Because we worked a lot on our identity, and we have a strong relationship with the local environment. We received 380,000 in income. That was the amount we received from ticket sales. And the price of each ticket is quite low by European standards, €6. Here you can see the figures for the cinemas before the pandemic. You can see the income for a cinema with a single screen, about €82,000. With 7 screens, 260,000. So our results are quite outstanding. €379,000. We're not alone in this. We have the Belgrade Cinema in Milano, which has a lot of admissions too. We have Gesomino, who's in charge of programming, and she is very strict and focuses a lot on our goals. We screened over 180 films in the original version. In Rome, there weren't any anymore in the original versions, and out of these 180 films, 80 included presentations. No, sorry, there were 1,800 films that were screened and 80 presentations. Here you have analysis. Our management is a bit special because we're open 24 hours a day. You have the management costs which change. We're not a cinema that opens at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and closes at 10 p.m. We get income from the bar. Film tickets and bar account for 75%, and 25% public and private contributions to help manage the cinema. 1,800 films were screened, and 50% of the profits came from just 10 films. 4 are in the top 25 that achieved the greatest box office receipts. This means basically that one can program smaller independent films and get excellent financial results. You don't necessarily have to have the leading title of the season. Here you can see our expenditure divided up as you see on the screen. There's a lot of expenditure on staff because we are open 24 hours a day. 43% for staff, 23% film rights, and 20% bar management. Our team, this activity is organized throughout the year. You have the summer festival, and the cinema on the town squares in the summer. So we're 9 people who work in the Piccolo America Foundation team, and we have about 30 people between the age of 20 and 30 who work to manage the bar, the study room, and there are other minor jobs. Some attend university. What's quite unusual is that they're all our employees. They're not just trainees. There is the Nanni Moretti Cinema just next to us, and we keep saying, oh, the older people go to your cinema, and we have all the young people. 30% of our audience is over the age of 50, and 39% is young people. We've created different formats. There are brunches, for example, and we have things organized with Woody Allen, and there are lots of films where the room is packed. We have about 600 spectators on Sunday morning. We have a good cooperation with Japan. And then we have late night Troisi too. These are friends who I really like. They're friends who have followed us for years now. Here you have the films we screen at midnight, and I'd like to finish by talking directly about films without national theatrical distribution. We have screened a number of them. It's not easy to work with the platforms, but I would like to deliver a message to the platforms. It would be good if things were more fluid in our relationship with the exhibitors, because it's not easy to access their films. I'd like to wind up by saying that we organize special events and hosts. We're familiar with the international cinema. It's important to go beyond the world of the cinema as well and work with other artists. We try to work among cannibals and with cannibalism. We worked with the people you see on the screen, and we're looking for a cannibal. We enjoy working with anthropologists.
One question I have. So yesterday we heard that Italy we're good? This one. I think it's the headphone. Better? Yeah. Yesterday we heard actually that Italy was one of the countries most struggling to get audiences back, while your numbers are staggering. They're fantastic. What do you think is the main reason that your cinema is doing so well?
Crediamo che sia per il lavoro sull'identità che abbiamo fatto, le persone.
This is due to our identity. People come to our cinema not because of the actual film being screened, but to enjoy the location, the venue. We're very living and lively cultural players in the region. We have a study room which attracts many young people, so the young people tend to be really very young. We also do a lot on the social networks. When we program a film or a retrospective, we organize very special meetings with the directors, for example. We try to go beyond the film per se. For example, we talk about cannibalism, or I'd like to thank Andrea Romero. We also organized an event with a physician on the multiverse or the metaverse on Sunday morning. We work hard, and throughout the summer there are free admissions on the town square, and even our tickets aren't very expensive. This attracts people who are not used to going to the cinema. We reach out to the public. We also have to attract the existing publics back into the cinema. We obviously have to share audiences, but we're not trying to create a new type of audience.
Thank you. Well, the main point is actually keeping your tickets affordable with inflation, and I think what we mainly see is people raising their tickets. It's a very interesting point. And while creating events, which we'll also talk about in the next workshop, to keep people coming, and not just for the film, but to the place in where you're organizing very special occasions. Thank you. I think we're going to hear a bit more about that. UNNUR, can I give you the word? From Vega Scene in Oslo, with also various approaches to embrace the new reality.
Good morning, and thanks for being here. I'm one of the founders and the manager of Vega Scene. We have a bit of a similar story. We started out in 2013 with zero money, and now you can see the house in front of you. We have 3 screens, one multifunctional room, and we have a black box theater. We do our own theater productions and host other plays. I won't talk about that today. And there's a snack bar. We opened in 2018, so we really only had 1 year of operation before the corona hit us all. In 2019, we had 70,000 admissions, and I'm happy to say that this year we will reach 100,000. Yes, in 2019, only 10% of our titles was US titles. We serve the main age axis, or the whole age axis, but our main audience is quite young. Corona or not, everything we do is about gaining new audiences. We do it by diversity in the programming, being different, personal, and including. Nothing of what I will say is rocket science. I guess we all do more or less the same, but here are a few things on our menu to attract a young audience. And I forgot to show you our cinema interiors. You can see it now, so I'll switch to the next. We try to make a life course cinema. We think it's important to educate the cinema goers of tomorrow and try to push them in sometimes a life devotion program. And in the formative years, we try to give them a chance to create, contribute, and decide. The beginning of the journey is baby cinema. We do the hardcore screenings for young parents every day. It's of course about the parents, but I think something might add to the DNA of the babies, and having film-interested parents is a good start of the journey. And from 2 to 4, we have the not cinema. It's a good way to enter the cinema. You can sit on, it's not in the screening room. You can sit on the chair, watch animated films in a good atmosphere. It's allowed to scream, talk, and walk around. And it's very popular. And the next level is our family program, the weekend and public holidays. So parents dedicated to our cinema just bring their children for this. The next level is interesting. From 9 to 15, the kids can come on their own after school to watch a selected film for free every week. We offer food, we offer talks, we listen to their wishes and arrange workshops with different topics. And further, from the age of 16, we invite them to be a member of a curator group. So they create their own program, a film club with screening every week. They organize before and after talks and workshops. And the screenings are open for everyone, and it has become a huge success with crowded screenings. We do, of course, a lot of work towards school and towards students. We offer reduced prices all year. Monday is a special student day. They pay €10. It's much for you, but in the Norwegian standard, the €15 is a normal ticket price. And this, ever since we started that, we increased our audience on Mondays with 300%, I think. And the distributors, they notice Mondays are only young people, so they try to put the pre-screenings, premieres, etc. on that day. So it has been a good and crowded day. And as soon as they're no longer students, we invite them to be a Vega friend. For €15, you can buy cheap tickets the rest of the year. And you get invited to pre-screenings, test screenings, etc. Yes, this is the young film club. You see, they organize everything themselves. And this is the one discussing the programs for the next week. Anyways, programming is of course the main key to the young audience. We do for the whole age axis, but we have a strong focus on coming-of-age films and films that are challenging and somehow exceeding in order to stand out from the other cinemas. And we try to make as many special events as possible. Our motto is, a day without a special event is a day without meaning. So, and we also try to focus, make diversity through other groups. So we choose films representing subcultures, and they bring their own content and their crowd to us. It could be snowboard, climbing, extreme sports, architecture, environment, dancing, music, horror, you name it. We also try to take the pulse of our times. Now we do a series called Tehran Cinema. We have a cooperation with Red Cross, with screenings for Ukraine mothers and children. We do also weekly documentaries with a strong political and environmental focus. Furthermore, we know that the kids or the young people, they watch TV, so it's thought, why don't get them to watch the series at our place? So we now very often present the first 2 episodes of TV series, bringing a new audience, and we have a very strong faith in our house. As once they are in, they will come back. We host a lot of film festivals. They, of course, play an important role for attracting new groups. It's Fusion, LGBT, Human Film Festival, Films from the South, artistic documentaries, etc. We do also screen films from the Cinematheque. We have 35mm screening. All this just to add our audience groups. We have also made the effort to make the young film industry come to our place. So we have monthly presentations of short and feature films directors, green screen and blue screen, and this has paid off. We have become the favorite cinema for the young filmmakers and a very popular arena for when they are premiering their films, if ever they come that far. In all this, I have to mention that you can't be too eclectic. We have to have a strong focus on the balance and maintaining our own program. So the meeting point is very important. I think we heard about that in the previous talk. We invite people to come and work with us. We have tried to make a second home for cinema lovers. It should be including, personal, nice to come there. Young people are welcome, old people are welcome. And we take people out the same way they come in, so that they want to stay in the house after talk, discussing, and the film industry, they come here to do their gatherings, debates, after works, etc. And being personal is very important, I think. We started from the beginning with crowdfunding. Everyone who helped us got their names on the wall. We have a ticket counter. Someone should always look you in the eye when you enter the room. Talk to people before and after the screenings. We have a lot of direct communication. We have volunteers coming into work. We have collaborations with the local community, and all this to try to make a personal atmosphere. We mostly, of course, communicate through social media, but we have just launched our own app, making it easier for us to communicate directly with our audience, and they can communicate with each other. This is great, but I will still emphasize, I think the most important thing is that we are present almost every night talking to our audience, so we know who they are. So I will say a few words about our green strategies. Vega is a sustainable cinema house. It's certified. It's the only house like that in Norway. As you can see, we have a green roof. It's a pollinating roof and has a new technology for stormwater management. But this certification involves everything. Choice of materials in the building, the paintings used, etc. It's direct heating, and you get points for second-hand furniture. We only have that. Apart from the posters, we are paperless. When we do merch, we do it like you see. Our red carpet is made of old, used clothes, and our bag is made of the same material. I won't go into details, but this image attracts groups, especially young people. And the environmental organization, they seek cooperation for screenings and to rent spaces. So this is a very good advantage for us. Finally, I have to mention that we also produce our own honey in cooperation with our neighbor, an alternative urban ecological house. So all the directors and moderators who come to us, they get this little jug of our own made honey. And that's all I want to say today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really impressed how really every facet of the movie theater you've really thought through and put in so much effort, and well, it pays off. That's That's great to see. Well, for example, the baby screenings that you have and the Mondays where you had a 300% increase. Well, we all tried stuff like that, and well, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But what is the secret of actually making it work? Is it persistence, or do you have a certain approach to doing those things?
The Student Monday worked. We decided on Friday, and on Monday we had increased our audience. So, but I guess it's some of the same reasons as you said. We stand out. We are newcomers. It adds some interest, I think, but there are no other cinema like this in Oslo. So I don't know. I don't know if you can just decide upon this. It has to happen. Someone has to... it's the credibility of the house somehow, and the personal place that they feel welcome, and it has a it factor. It's hard to describe, I think.
The it factor. That's nice. Is there anybody from the audience that has a question at this moment already? Yes, in the middle there.
Very short question. How many people work there?
How many people work there?
Yes.
Yeah, we are 9 people, but it also includes a theater director and an actor. So in the cinema we are 5, apart from the part-time staff, of course.
It's astonishing because you're organizing so much, and then also, I mean, I believe in what you say, that it's really good to be present yourself as well. But how do you find the time and make sure that the team actually well survives and stays healthy, because you're putting in so much effort?
It's a good question. We of course worked night and day, and when you open a place, that's how it is. But we have found structures and dividing between us the tasks, so it works.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Oh, in the back.
Alors déjà bravo, je suis très admiratif.
Congratulations, I'm full of admiration. This conference is a very useful one, because what we discover is that there's a tremendous diversity. In France, where we haven't reached that stage at all, we're just at the very beginning. There's a sort of a taboo which bans all this, because we're sort of the homeland of the cinema. There's something rather rigid in the way we screen films. We're only just beginning to move towards these new initiatives with a degree of difficulty. We realize thus that there's a huge diversity when it comes to Europe and the way we approach things.
Thank you. I think it's a good observation, and I hope that the diversity in the initiatives here will be translatable to other countries, to France or to wherever your cinema is standing. Thank you, Andres. Microphone.
Hello, my name is Andres. I am from Elektriteater from Tartu, Estonia. We are a single-screen cinema with 120 seats, located in an old church building, as you can see in here. A few years ago, we commissioned research into our audience to divide it into, to find out who are the people who come and visit us, to know them better. And we found out 7 groups of people through this research who are the main visitors of our cinema. Number 1, who you probably all recognize, is the cinephile, who comes a lot and knows a lot about movies. It's the most frequent visitor, is very knowledgeable. but it's probably very notable to all the people who work in the cinema. But at the same time, they are not the main mass of the audience. There's always a lot more other people. Then there is introvert, who is was quite a surprise for us, because they come to cinema, they're very quiet, they don't talk with staff. But they are also very frequent visitors. They like to visit alone. They read a lot before. They like to leave very quickly, never listen to Q&As, because they want to form their own opinions before they start having new opinions. That's why they also like to visit cinema alone, because they don't want to have a discussion with their friends right after, but they want to have time to digest it. Then there is the culture-loving couple, who's usually middle-aged, who come very often. They also visit theater and art galleries and many other culture events. They read a lot. They plan their visits quite a lot ahead. They travel with a car. They usually read from the website, not so much from the Facebook. They read a lot of reviews, and they are also quite sociable. And they are very frequent visitors, very stable for over many years. Then there's one that we call mother of the family. It could be easily father of the family also, who likes to come alone after the work without children. It's entertainment. She often reads a lot, but from the mainstream media, not so much from the film critics. She's quite frequent. She travels with public transport, so she doesn't like late night screenings. She likes to come straight after the work. And she's also a very long time visitor, and in our case, in our cinema, she really missed that there should be more teenage movies where she could take the family, because probably her family is just old enough that she can have the evenings free and visit the cinema alone. Then there is a couple who's looking for experiences. They are probably young. They are very sociable. They go to many events. They make their decisions very on last moment. They don't plan much ahead. They take almost all the information from social media. They often come with friends. They discuss a lot. They like events. They like how do I say, more special movies, late night movies, where it's something fun happening. And then there is a social visitor, who's very the opposite of introvert, who reads a lot. There is a Estonian culture newspaper on her pocket. And, but she rarely comes alone. She often comes with the friends, she invites friends, she's very knowledgeable about the movies and what she wants to see. But she moves with the group, and she stays for the events, stays for the Q&As, likes to talk, reads a lot from very different sources. And then there is one quite regular visitor that you probably all know, who's this tag-along companion, who rarely makes his own decisions, but comes quite often. He has his own opinion about the movies, but he probably has other hobbies that are more important to him than movies, and he ends up in the cinema when someone takes him along, probably a partner. What we found out from the research is, which is very obvious in the end, that it's easy to look at the audience as a big group, that there is like last month there was a few thousand visitors, or in a year we had 40,000 visitors. But in the end, every single visitor actually comes there with their own motivation and their own needs. Like, it's a single person always who comes to cinema, maybe two, maybe three, but it's not 100 people who come to cinema. They come to cinema to watch the movie because they want to spend their own evening somehow. And they don't feel that they are part of the 100 people, just like you in here. Every single one of you thinks their own thoughts, is here for their own reason. It's not a group who came together. It's a single people who come together and they make their own decisions and have their own motivations. And this was quite eye-opening thought for us to see that we have to approach them as single people very often, not so much think that it's a big group. We had 10,000 visitors and there is nothing unique about them, but actually they are very unique. What we found out, the second very important insight was that it's very easy to get used to your own cinema and know everything. And the audience, well, the cinephile comes quite often, but the average audience comes maybe 3 times a year, maybe even less. And they don't know so much about the cinema. Even if they know what they want to find out, they might not know where to find it. Like this picture I added because, do you see the cafeteria? But we found one person who comes to cinema about once a month who had never noticed the cafeteria. This is the first view you see when you walk into our auditorium. And she was like, really? You can buy coffee there? And many others, like they are very, they are in their own thoughts. Somebody comes when the trailer starts, they come from work, they run away. Well, somebody stays until the end of the credits so he can leave quietly, but they are very much in their own thoughts, and they don't know as much as we do about the cinema. Like, I could walk through this hallway in complete darkness. I know where the steps are. When I close the door with my hands full with things, I know how to move my hips to catch the door. But they come there once a year. They get very confused where they are. Like one result we got from this research is that we labeled our seats a lot better, so they can find them, because I know it starts from there first, but they don't, even if it's written small on the chair. So a lot of the work with the physical space to make it very friendly for the first-come visitor, or even for the visitor who comes twice a year. The second thing with the physical space was that we had lots of posters that we like to keep up because they were pretty, to use them as illustrations. But then we found that audience gets very confused which movies are now happening and which movies were like half a year ago. So we took away all the posters that we just put on the wall. Now we have frames, and we try to always put a sign next to it when the movie is happening. So when they look at it, they know when it's happening. And have the similar clarity everywhere on the website, on the newsletter, to make it as simple as possible, because we probably work with our program for weeks and weeks, and we know what's happening, or roughly what's happening. But they check the schedule somewhere in their lunch break with their mobile phone. They want to just have a clear answer.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. And, well, thank you. And I wanted, this is not like all the groups who are in the cinema, but these are the ones who we found out.
Can you tell us what are 2 other groups that you...
Well, one group that we were really surprised about is people who love our cinema but almost never come.
Yes.
And it is quite a big group, we found out. And the second is school children.
Okay. It's crazy that in Tartu, Estonia, all the people you describe, I know exactly who they are at our cinema. You guys too. Yeah. So thank you for giving us all these insights that are very recognizable to our cinemas as well, and mainly the idea that they're all single people, which I personally tend to forget sometimes. When you look at the big numbers, you know how many people came to Triangle of Sadness yesterday. Well, they're all individuals that made that choice. Did you, apart from the adjustments you made in your cinema, did you change something after knowing who the personas were in your programming or in your marketing?
Not so, like in marketing, we try to think of them as a single people more. Like we don't think that this Facebook post should get 1,000 views. We more think like, who is the viewer? Like, is this a culture couple? Is it a young audience? We try to speak with more like single person, like I would speak with human. That's what we changed in the communication. In the programming, not so much. We try to simplify. Like we also have a lot of events, but we are more moving in the other direction to have less events because we feel we cannot manage them, especially in the communication, all of them, that they don't reach the audience.
Okay. Is there any question from the audience? Yes, in the front. Oh, and can you say your name and what cinema you're from?
Is it good? Yeah, thank you. Nolwenn Delisle from the French Institute, Rome Saint-Siège, which to the Holy See. How did you do the screening of your audience? Was it just by looking at it? Did you like have statistic about it? Because it's fantastic, but how did you manage to do it?
It was done by like this qualitative research. So we did, or we hired one agency, and it was a master work for one anthropology student, and she did 25 interviews with audience members, and she spent 4 days just sitting in our lobby, looking around, making observations, like who are the people coming, like trying to categorize to see that she gets people from all the groups that come, and then they're in the lobby just approach, said, I'm doing research for my university and for the cinema, would you be okay to have an interview? And the interviews were usually 1 hour to 2 hours long, so quite in depth. So that's also the reason why we don't have all the groups, because these were the people who were interviewed, but it's quite clear already like how the power structures show up, and as you said, like these are the same groups in many cinemas all over the world.
Yeah, I think you got them all, to be honest. I mean, that is the audience that you just described here.
Yes.
Any question from the panel for Andres? No? Any in the room? Oh, yeah. Fantastic graphic design, by the way, too. Fantastic drawings.
Hi, Ivar from Kino Tapiola. I have a question regarding the culture-loving couple and the couple looking for experiences. What were the differences between these two groups, and how did you find you were most able to communicate with them? What was your experience?
Well, the culture-loving couple is more older usually, has children, reads more in advance, reads the cultural newspapers, watches TV shows. Definitely plans ahead. This is one other thing we changed after the research, that we try to keep our schedule open or public as much ahead as we can, because people, especially older people, like to plan at least 2-3 weeks in advance. So we keep our schedule always 2 weeks in advance, so public and maybe even more. But the experience-loving couple is younger. They make their decisions in a very last moment often. They get information from social media. They often come with their friends, when the culture couple just comes by themselves. So the big difference is in the age, but also in the type of the movies they watch. Like one watches more drama and art house movies, while younger ones watch the movies that youngers like, the more action, maybe even mainstream, and they often like to come with more friends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marvin from York. And maybe interesting to mention, I saw Marvin first on a panel in Lisbon. Probably, well, many of you were there too. And he explained things in a panel like this that created quite some change actually for our cinema, in a way that we started a collaboration with other cinemas to acquire a ticketing system, and we actually built a website together. And that came from the presentation that Marvin came. So I'm curious what you will show us today, Marvin.
Thank you, Frank. So no pressure for me then. One second. So I'm Marvin. I'm from Yorck Cinema Group in Berlin, and we are a group of 14 cinemas that operate under one umbrella brand, which is Yorck Kino-Gruppe. I will go for this presentation. I won't be showing many photos, sadly, but just to give you a general idea, because we have this main umbrella brand and we work across 14 cinemas in Berlin, we have a bit of a varied approach to some things. And I think in my job, we mostly focus on 4 areas. The first one is programming. That's a bit obvious. The second one is branding. And I think what Valerio and everyone at Cinema, sorry, I forgot the name, Troisi is doing, is quite exemplary, because we really want to create a brand that people have in their minds when they think about going to the cinema, but also thinking about quality film and that they have a personal connection with. So building up that brand is important to us. Memberships are also important to us. We have launched a subscription scheme in 2009, and we launched a free membership later on, and we just launched MovieGo last week in Germany. So working with those memberships and this personal connection is also quite important to us. And finally, data, and that's what this presentation will be about, is working with the data we generate from memberships, from our website and other stuff, and working with it to influence what we do with the cinemas, with programming, but also to see, do we reach our audience goals or not. And in this presentation, I want to focus only on those things that are easy to replicate, even though we do several other things as well. So I hope there's something you can take away from it and implement or build upon as well. So not going to go into a very, very large-scale definition of data, but most of the time when we think about data, we think data is like this extremely complex thing that involves all of our personal information. And just to get back, step back a bit and think it's just information put into numbers. And that's crucial because numbers can be compared, they can be tracked, you can build a graph upon them, and you can better get an overview on what action you should derive from data. And it allows us to compare the data we have with the assumptions we made. Our personal experience as operators and exhibitors is crucial. Talking to guests, talking to staff is crucial, and everything we know and learn when we bring is crucial. But I mean, it already came up quite a few times. We all are pretty much stuck in our assumptions, and we've been in our cinema so long. The data can be a great way to challenge our assumptions and see if what we do, our strategy, and what we assume people are like can be compared to reality. So the first kind of thing we do since a few times is called an exit survey. This is a very brief email we send out to everyone who has bought an online ticket 1 hour after the show ends. We don't do this all year. We do this on several fixed weeks where we have big releases. And I'm sure you've all gotten from hotels or car rental agencies this email that says, rate your experience with us. And it's like this 20-question survey that no one really likes or wants to do. So what we tried to achieve when we set up the survey was make it very, very short, ask only 3 questions, and the email just says, how did you like the film? We experimented with some different ways, but people really, really respond to the email when it's like, share opinion about the film with us. And the first question is just a 5-star rating of the film. The second question is a 5-star rating of the cinema, and we make sure that people get the difference between both, so they rate the film itself and the cinema experience. And then the third question is a free text field where people can just enter random thoughts they have about their visit. And the great thing about these three things is, so the first question is a great indicator for our programming team, if people like the film or not. We don't organize our programming solely based on ratings, but if a film has a very, very high rating, we know, okay, this film will likely receive a very high word of mouth and people will recommend it to their friends, and maybe it will get a longer time in our cinemas than if its rating is lower. The second one and the third one are more about the cinema itself, and especially the second one, when you do this over time, you can realize trends, or you can see trends that you just don't get if you only rely on your conversations with guests, is how subtle changes within the cinema can influence people's experience of it. So in one example that I mentioned below, one of our cinemas got in October 2021 an average rating of 3.9. And we made some changes to the seating, we decorated the foyer differently, there was some fresh paint in some instances, and now the rating has gone up to 4.5. In the free text field to the right, people never complained much about the cinema itself, but it shows that people really took the area and experience of visiting it differently, and allows us also to compare to other cinemas more easily that pretty much stayed the same rating throughout every time we tested. And it's also a great way to see how COVID safety measures impact the rating. I mean, we're hopefully behind that now, but it was good to see when we, for instance, put up mask signs again last year. People really, really appreciated that and gave the cinema visit a higher rating after they saw that we had a lot of materials asking people to be respectful of each other and stuff like that. And the third one, it's not so much comparable per se, but it's good to get unfiltered impressions from guests, because not every guest who has a complaint will come up to you at the box office and tell you that personally. Andres had a good shout out to the introverts who would never do that, but they would be happy to, if you give them the opportunity to share something with you digitally, they will do it, and they will do and also talk about things that wouldn't be big enough to go to you for a major complaint. Another thing that we did when we redesigned our website after 20 years, we came up with the idea of including a search function, and that has been a very, very useful thing because we now see what people can find on our website, but also what they search up first thing when they enter it. So it's great just to see what films are most searched for, but also what, even more crucial, what searches don't provide any results for people, and to see what films are we missing out, what are people looking for on a website that we don't offer them. And on standards like the no results rate, you can try to work around that and see where do you need to improve your website so people actually find what they're looking for. Third one, also connected to the website, is having analytics set up. Can be Google Analytics or Matomo. There are many different options available. You can work with KPIs like the session conversion rate, which is basically how many people who visit our website are actually buying a ticket, and how long does it take them to actually buy a ticket from the first visit to the confirmation screen. We work with that number and the drop-off rate you see on the right graph quite a lot, and try to make subtle improvements or inclusions of things like Google Pay or Apple Pay to get people to complete their transaction faster, because every second counts, and every additional step that we can take out of the equation excuse me, improves the quality for end users. And it's also great because within our team, everybody thought, yeah, when people visit our website, they enter the domain in the web browser, and then they see the homepage, and they click on this thing and that thing, and just to challenge the assumption how people actually use it, because most people, as you see in the graph in the middle, visit our programming overview first and don't really, the front page isn't that popular compared to other pages of the website. So we also work a bit with micro and macro audience services. The one on the left you see is coming up when you complete a booking. It's just a simple question: how satisfying was the booking experience for you? It's 3 emojis. And people really, really love to click on these things, so it gives us a good feeling as well to see if we do everything right there. And sometimes we let this open and include a link, do you want to give us feedback on what films you are excited for? And then we provide like 10 different options of films we think about screening next month, and also give people the ability to rate on 1 to 5 stars if they are excited to see this film or not. And lastly, social media data. We work quite a lot with Instagram, and you can look at your insights on Instagram on what age groups you actually reach, apart from what individual posts are popular. And you can also work a lot with what posts per se have a higher reach, but also how often trailer views are completed, how long stay, how much you pay when you on an ad for people watching a trailer, because the higher the number, the fewer people actually complete watching the trailer. So we count this as a lack or as expression of interest. And we, for instance, use that data to just come up with audience strategies of how do we pull an age group in when we say social media is the main channel for an event. And just to give you one example that's very recent, we launched a vampire film series to accompany an exhibition in Berlin. It was about 100 years of Nosferatu, and has like 90 years of vampires in cinema, and we knew, okay, if we want to bring a younger crowd, we have to include Twilight in this film series. It was the first one that sold out completely, but all the other screenings that are built around that profit from that as well, and we see that the crowd, even for the 1931 Dracula or Werner Herzog's Nosferatu, is very, very young, because we completely built the series around how do we expand on people who come in with Twilight, and now we want them to get to watch other classics as well. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. That's very insightful. Of course, you're one of the biggest members of Europa Cinemas, with many cinemas, 14, I believe, in Berlin. But the things you presented today are things we can all, also one building cinemas or one screen cinemas even, that they can use. I just wondered, so for example, Matomo, you said, Google Analytics, there are tools available to all of us, but well, you sit down, you look at this data, how do you organize within your team that you can actually act upon it? And how do you find what to look at? And do you guys have weekly sessions or monthly sessions?
So we have every Monday, when the programming decisions are made for next week, we have like a 2-hour meeting where people from the programming team, marketing team, but also from the office management all come together, and it's a very diverse group age-wise and job-wise, and that really helps to just put things into focus. So sometimes we come in prepared with data, or we just look at analytics and other stuff together. Sometimes the programming team has concrete questions and asks us, yeah, what were people like that visited this film, or how does this film perform on the website, or how does this film perform on social media? And yeah, this 2 hours could be much, much longer because we tend to get a bit lost in the debate every time. But we should build upon it even more, because like the data itself is very useful per se, but also that the different perspectives of different jobs come together is something that you don't get often in the daily business. But it, yeah, same as I mentioned earlier, just to break through your own thinking and challenge it constantly.
And for example, if it's more about the construction of the reconstruction of the building, or feedback to the cinemas in general, do you organize that as well?
That's not in my job per se, but we just collect all that feedback and head it over to our head of operations, and then from on that they discuss it with the theater operators and build upon that as well. And also goes up to management, of course, in some instances where we just have a detailed presentation. It is like 40 pages long, and everyone can read on their own time and mind.
Okay. Any questions for Marvin? What are the reactions of, because it would be my biggest fear if you send emails to people, I always find them very annoying to rate experiences on whatever. Were there negative reactions to it from the audience, or just people not filling it in?
So we take care that we don't send it out all year, because recurring guests have started to complain after they get the 4th email. So we're just keeping it to like a fixed amount of time that we do every year, so we can compare it to earlier years. But ever since we made that switch, people, we have only gotten positive feedback about it, and people are really, really excited when you phrase it, not in rate your exact experience with us, but if you ask them in the email header, how did you like the film? And that's something people love to share, and I think it's also because of the connection they have with the cinema that they feel, oh, those people I want to give feedback, I want them to know how I like the film. It's different than if you have like the 2,400 emails from hotels and other stuff to rate your last flight or hotel stay.
Okay, thank you, Marvin. Hannele, can I invite you up on stage? A very different approach than what we've seen just now, but very inspiring, I must say, what you're doing, Hannele. So can you take us?
Yes, hello, I'm Hannele from Kino Tapiola. I apologize for the PowerPoint slides. They were the first I've ever made in my life. Don't hold them against my cinema is beautiful. This is a lovely quote we love to use because it was actually by a customer calling us a world-class neighborhood cinema, and it sort of sums up what we want to be, so, and what we seem to be, so that's why I wanted to have it there. So, we are a one-screen art house cinema, just under 200 seats. We are situated in Espoo, so basically you hop on a metro, central Helsinki, within 15 minutes you arrive at where we are. We are originally from the 1950s, but we reopened it 12 years ago. It's fully renovated, and the building is protected for its architectural heritage. And we have very much this cozy, friendly, local cinema vibe. We really want to be there for our customers. We're all about customer work and service. And we have also put in the last 2-3 years a lot of effort into our wine bar and summer terrace, which has really sort of paid out. And we're not open every day. It would be a bit of an overkill, because in the suburb there are only like 12,000 people, and in the bigger suburb maybe about 50,000. We have screenings from Wednesday to Sunday, 10 to 14 a week, less during the summer, and more during the busier times. And the lovely news is that we normally have approximately 32,000 admissions, but we already had 31,000 end of November, so woohoo! It's going to be better than before COVID, so yay! Here are, let me just put some pictures, you can have a quick look. And that's the very specially architecturally protected screening room. But basically, I had to beg to put on fire alarms because it will ruin the ceiling. But I put them anyway, so I think safety first. But that's about running a cinema in an architecturally protected building. And that's the wine bar. But why I'm here, I was asked by Fatima to talk quickly about green work and audience work. About the green work, I'll just briefly say that the one good thing about COVID was that I finally had some time, so I attended the city-funded workshop to calculate our footprint, the carbon footprint. We were the first cinema in Finland to do that, and thus we are the first carbon-neutral cinema in Finland. And regarding our, And regarding our audience work, well, the audience really loves talking to us. They like to tell us what they want to see, what films they want us to rerun. They tell us this, you know, they tell my staff at the cinema, they email us, they tell us online. And we always tell them back by putting it on our weekly brochure that yes, we've now scheduled a film because it's back due to audience demand, and so on and so forth. So we wanted to facilitate this by creating this interactive page on our website. So basically now we have this very simple tool for our audience to tell us things. For example, they could just very simply tag on a film poster of the film they want us to rerun. We can ask them which Finnish films they would like to see with subtitles for hard of hearing. We can ask them about the wine bar opening times. Should we open earlier? Should we stay up later? And the proof that this sort of dialogue with the audience actually work is that when the restrictions were finally lifted in February, we were quite unsure what to do, but rather than just tell our audience, we wanted to involve them. So we put on a quick voting thing on this website, asking whether they want us to keep the one-seat safety distance between groups, or whether they would want everyone to be able to fit in, because this was during the time when, for example, everyone was desperate to see the truffle hunters of Piemonte, so we actually had a lot of people coming in, and 428 voted to keep the safety seat between groups, 127 rather would have everyone fit in, and so we followed this. We were the only cinema in Finland to keep the safety distance until actually even August, and it actually worked really in our favor because the spring was really tough on all the cinemas, but our audience were really happily coming in big numbers because they felt safe. And this was also a nice way of communicating about the safety and about the feeling and sense of space, because we could ask them on this website and then just keep the dialogue going. But then to tie in with the sort of green work, we are now sort of doing more calculations, and now we want to involve and take into consideration how the customers, they commute to us. So just last week we launched a simple survey on this website asking how do you commute to our cinema. So again, this is just a screenshot because it's basically just a simple WordPress website. Nothing, it's not rocket science. I can tell you how we do this if you want to come talk to me afterwards. And by just tagging on a photo there, they can tell us if they come by walking or by cycling, or bus, or whether they take the metro, or whether they are naughty and they come by car. And I just looked at the figures yesterday, and it looks like 60% do come and walk. There is come by walking and biking, because there's actually a city bike rack just outside our cinema as well. So, because this again goes with the very local vibe that we have. And 30% take either bus or metro, and only 10% really arrive by car. So this is sort of what we do. This was just talking. We love the fact that rather than just telling, we involve them, we're in dialogue with them, and it actually works. So just simple things. And then here on top there is the website direct link if you want to have a look how the voting webpage works. And then I wanted to end with a quote that I borrowed from the Loft Cinema, because I believe in borrowing everything that works. We really should be open and share our best practices. And I visited the Loft Cinema, an indie cinema in Tucson, and in their very sustainable refillable water bottles, it says, "You are what you watch." And let's keep this in mind. We do such important curating work, so bonne chance tout le monde. Okay, merci.
Well, thanks a lot. And I think, together with Piccolo America, you're one of the few cinemas that actually had the best year thus far, which is great to hear. And it's really great that you're leading both on the green road and on democratizing your cinema. Are you not sometimes afraid of what the audience wants, or maybe what a very vocal part of the audience wants? Because not everybody fills in surveys.
Well, us as an audience really tell us what they want. You know, not everyone, like we do these Friday and Saturday night drinking screenings. It doesn't sound as bad as it sounds, but it just means that you can take a glass of organic red French wine with you to the cinema, so it's not like drinking screenings. But there are obviously, because we have also older audience members, some of them were sort of against this a bit, so they talked, we love it. They actually will email me, they will ask our staff, like, what is this about? So they're not afraid to voice their concerns, and we just tell them that this is exactly it. You can. We think it's a service that an adult can drink a quality glass of red instead of, you know, soda at a cinema screening on a Friday night, watching a tough art house film. So, and then they understand that this is, that it is not like everyone's drinking, and it's all very, you know, very friendly and cozy and peaceful, so it's no, but they do tell us, and it's the women over 60 that are the most vocal. But the drinking screenings have actually made us so that there's now more and more young people coming in. Oh, I mean, by young I mean people that their age group might begin with 40 or 30, but we really have had now, I've been running it for 12 years, more and more people in their 30s and 40s coming in. So. Well, the fact that you kept your safety measures, because you knew that that's what a majority of your audience wanted, that's very smart. And I think a lot of us could have maybe benefited by doing that and not trying to get rid of them as fast as possible. And well, you can see that it worked out really well for Tapiola. So thank you again. And then for our last presentation, Noortje van der Sande of PICL. We'll talk a bit about research into the hybrid consumer, because of course we've talked a lot about VOD, not so much this conference yet. I think after COVID, quite some people grew tired of VOD, but PICL has shown that it can actually go really well hand in hand with art house cinemas, and I think Noortje will tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, thank you for the introduction, Frank. Indeed, we might be a bit of a strange speaker on this panel, because it is about attracting audiences back to the cinema. But we have been doing online screenings with PICL, with Dutch cinemas since 2016, and we think that also offering online content can make audiences go back to your on-site cinemas as well. And I'll explain something more about this. My name is Noortje van der Sande. I'm the director of PICL. And as I was telling, we have started in 2016 with offering online films with Dutch cinemas. In 2016, this was really something very... people were a bit afraid. Would people not go to our cinema anymore? People will stay at home and only watch films at home. And since 2016, we have proven with PICL that this is absolutely not the case in the Netherlands. All the people watching online prefer to watch a film in a cinema, but sometimes they just can't make it to the cinema because the film they want to see is already out, is not screening anymore. It's not screening in their neighborhood, or it's only screening on a time which doesn't suit them. That's what we were experimenting with in 2016. Then COVID came, and there were a lot of lockdowns. this meant a lot of online, a big increase in online people watching online films at PICL, but also not only in the Netherlands, but what I found very interesting was that all over Europe, different cinemas were experimenting with offering online screenings, virtual cinema. And now we are in a very interesting time. I call it post-COVID, hopefully, in which some people stopped offering online content and others are still doing it. And now, also with PICL, we're really investigating what works. What do audiences want to watch online? Do they still want to watch online? What do they want to watch online? And how can you profit of this being a cinema? And the biggest point in this is that people are now used to watch films online, and they watch it at the big streamers. They go to Netflix, and then they complain that it takes them an hour to find a film which is really something they want to see. And I think for cinemas, this is a really important job, still being a gatekeeper. Cinemas used to be a gatekeeper, selecting the best films for their audiences, and that's what audiences want, not only in the cinema, but also online, because sometimes people just want to watch a film online. And if you don't offer it them yourselves, then they watch it at Netflix. And in the Netherlands, we still work together with 40 cinemas, and we have a lot of discussions. How should we do it? What does virtual cinema mean in the future? Is this something that we want to cherish? Is it something which we have to change? And where are the opportunities? One of the things we did is that we really had an in-depth research on the audiences in the past few years, investigating if the audiences going to the cinema are the same as the audiences watching online. And we segmented the audiences in 11 segments, and this is a general cultural segmentation model in the Netherlands used by cinemas, but also by different other cultural institutions, which is really great because then you can compare. And you see most of them are the same, with in different cities, different segmentations of audiences, maybe watching a bit more online or watching a bit more on site. And with this insight, we also did we also did marketing tests. If these people are indeed the same audiences, when do they make choices to watch a film online, and when do they make choices to watch a film on site? And how can we all profit from this? What you see here is a very, it's only a sketch, but what you see here is that there are different decision moments when people decide to go to a cinema. And it's different for each audience segmentation. But for example, most people decide to go to a cinema on Monday or Thursday. It doesn't mean that they go to a cinema on Monday and Thursday, but that is the moment that they decide, wait, I want to go to a cinema this week or in 2 weeks. Then the program will be communicated by the cinema. People are looking for a partner or a companion to drag along with them to the cinemas. And these are the moments that you want to communicate with your audience, watch this film with me in the cinema. Other moments, for example, on Friday and Saturday, these are moments that people would want to watch a film online. It's around 8:30. They've decided not to go to a cinema because they don't have a babysitter or they've been to a cinema already. And these are the moments that they just collapse on the bank and on the sofa and try to see, what am I going to watch? And that is the moment you want to communicate with them. Maybe you can watch this film online at our cinema. You can also watch it in another way. This is the consumer, but then these are the life cycles of films. So this is week 1 of a film being screened in the cinema or online. That is a moment that consumers mostly want to watch the film in the cinemas. Then in a few weeks, this film isn't being screened daily in the cinema, but the audience is still there. That could be a moment to say either this film is now still screening in the cinema, but only for a few weeks, come to us, or this is a moment in which the film isn't screening daily in our cinema, but you can still watch it online on our website. So those are two very interesting communication moments. And the last one is when a film is almost out of the virtual cinema room. These are a few examples of means of communication. If you are a cinema, these are a few interesting moments with which you want to reach out to your audience, or maybe to a certain segment of your audience. And these are a few communication means of communication that we tested with several cinemas in the Netherlands. And it works both ways. So you can either offer people the chance to watch a film online or in the cinema, or only in the cinema, or only online. And maybe you think, what is in this for us? Because this can be very interesting in the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, a lot of cinemas, 40 cinemas are participating, and almost all of them still make a profit out of offering films online. But how does that work for me? And you actually have several ways of offering virtual cinema, in which virtual cinema, I mean offering an online films or content like Q&As or workshops on your website, or maybe not on your website. The first is to make it yourself, make it custom, build something yourself, or maybe with a group of cinemas. That is, of course, very interesting because you all have it in your own hands and you can actually track the whole customer through the customer journey. But it's mostly very expensive, takes a lot of work and a lot of knowledge and insights. For example, Curzon in the UK is doing that, and maybe, I'm not sure, Marvin, Yorck does it, or maybe it is a white label solution. That's another solution. You don't build it yourself, but you buy a white label technical solution, either with marketing or without, and you do it yourselves.
1 minute, Noortje.
Yeah, this is my last sheet. So that could be an option. Another option is to outsource your virtual cinema solutions. That is something that PICL offers. It's an outsourced central platform. And the good thing is, as a cinema, you don't have to worry about a lot of things because it's handled by the central platform. Or another thing is doing a partnership, which maybe you can do with a platform like Mubi. And also because we're now researching all these different solutions and finding what works best in offering online virtual cinema, we're also doing a research. As you probably got emails from Fatima, or the people behind Europe Cinemas, asking to fill out a questionnaire. If you haven't done it already and you still think it would be interesting, please do fill this out. Because we're really investigating all the means of virtual cinema and your experiences. And of course, we will share all the results on a later moment.
Thank you. So you've done this a couple of years in the Netherlands. Of course, the question for everybody is: in how far did the offering of VOD, because it's day and date, in how far do you think it cannibalized cinema attendance, or not at all? Do you have some? Have you done some research on that?
Yes, we did. Actually, in the Netherlands, we're not only offering day and date, but day and date and older films as well. Because sometimes we make a retrospective if there's a new film from a director and we offer the older films of the same director. So it's not only day and date. And we did do a lot of extensive research on this cannibalization. And we find out that mostly it doesn't cannibalize for the three reasons I mentioned earlier. People who love art house films, they love cinemas. They prefer to go to a cinema. That's the best place to watch. That's the best place to watch an art house movie. That's what all our audiences say. But not all of them are able to watch all the films they want in the cinema. For the reasons the time doesn't suit me, it's already out of the cinemas because there's a lot of films being released, or it's not screening in a place that I can reach easily. So these are not arguments which you can. These are not arguments that you can convince them to go to the cinema at the moment that they want to watch a film online.
And did you see a big change after COVID when the cinemas reopened with the number of people watching at PICL? Did you see a big change?
Yes, because the people were really wanting to go back to the cinemas, and of course, so that's what we saw. But then people are also used to watch films at home. So that's why I think as a cinema it could be really interesting to think about offering films online as well, because that's what most people are used to now. Even though they prefer to go to a cinema, that doesn't mean they don't watch films at home. It's more of an extra service or a loyalty, a way of keeping your audiences loyal.
Yeah, well, and I think it's good to see that it continues also after COVID. And well, you also mentioned MovieGo. We have this in the Netherlands, and in the next panel we'll hear a bit more also about VOD options. But that's also a way, indeed, to entertain your audience and to keep them loyal. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. I think I'm doing a little summary. I've tried to summarize what we discussed because it was quite a lot. What I noticed was that mainly it's about standing out, which we saw at well, all your cinemas. It's standing out from the rest, and that's or by creating a lot of events in your space, or I also find it quite refreshing, Andres, that you said actually we are going to do less events because we want to focus with our team on being able to do those events. And what became very clear is that research and data, of course buzzwords very often used, but there's very practical ways in which you can use that to actually find out what your audience wants, maybe make some decisions like keeping the safety seating that in the end turn out really well. So democracy is a good thing to use, but also the personas that you created, Andres, and that made clear that they're individuals and that some of them need to be kept educated, even though they come to your cinema very often. And lastly, that combining VOD actually can be very feasible also after COVID, and there are many ways to do so. And which I found quite interesting is that maybe lowering ticket prices, like they've done in Rome, could actually really help making your cinema more accessible and keep the numbers up. So all in all, oh yes, can you...
Il prezzo dei biglietti è basso come media, ma comunque...
Yes, usually the ticket price is fairly low. For certain screenings, the price is lower, and of course, some spectators can't afford to pay higher prices. For example, if they pay to see a film by Woody Allen, then they can stay on and see another film. It's very important to have a real link with the audience, a real relationship. We have emails and newsletters. We do opinion polls. We don't even all that much, but the idea is to have a place that's open 24 hours a day. We have a place which is not a co-working area, but it's media library where people and students can sit and work. So we have, as a result, about 60,000 spectators for the film and 90,000 students come to work and study. And they speak daily with our staff members. We were 14 who went to Venice, for example, with sleeping bags. And many of our people go to Turin. And people even fall in love. People know who mans the bar, who mans the ticketing. The idea is to have a strong link with the audiences. We're a small cinema, so we have this strong direct relationship with our audiences. Our programming is worked out by 17 to 18 people, and people who all work for the cinema. We share management, and it's all very human.
Thank you all, to all the panelists. I hope that indeed the people who were a bit more pessimistic in the beginning will leave this room a bit more optimistic, and then to see that there's more workshops to come. So enjoy your coffee and see you back in 20 minutes. Thank you.